What's going on, guys? It's Mesmer here. Welcome to another video. Today we're actually going to go over some similarities and comparisons between the upcoming Delta Force Hawk Ops, which is now just renamed to Delta Force, and the, I guess, fan favourite, but maybe not so recently, Battlefield, and the EA DICE game on that side. So I just wanted to give a bit of history. What has led up to this point? Where do we currently sit? So, a bit of history with the Delta Force series. It's developed primarily by a company called Nova Logic. They had a first release just titled again Delta Force in 1998. Their most notable releases at this stage is, at the top of the list, Black Hawk Down. So I know some people personally that have played this, loved it a lot. Then you have Delta Force Extreme, Task Force Danger, and Land Warrior. So there's 4 titles there from the Delta Force, title that have been relatively successful. The focus in the Delta Force games has been the US Army Elite Counter-Terrorism Unit, the Delta Force. It aims for a tactical realism, often emphasising a small unit combat and special ops. If we chuck this over to Battlefield and compare the two, it's obviously developed by DICE, and they're owned by EA. So they did a first release of 1942. I actually played this a fair bit on a USB when we were in school, and the school labs would allow us to play in lunchtimes. So good fun on that Battlefield 1942. I played as the engineer. I loved running around with the Car 98 with no scope on it, and also the rocket launcher that you'd get. The notable releases there are clearly Battlefield 3, 4, 1, 5, and obviously the upsetting one of 2042. What is Battlefield really known for? It's large-scale battles and its emphasis on team play. It usually incorporates historical and modern settings. So obviously with our Battlefield 1 and 5, those are more World War I, World War II genre. 3, 4, 2042, Bad Company 3, those kind of games, they are more modern, and 2042, 2142 as well, being set in future. They usually feature a mix of infantry and vehicle combat. The success and popularity of these two series. The Delta Force series is probably less popular. They had an initial strong following, especially amongst the tactical shooter enthusiasts. However, over time, it's kind of gone down a fair bit. It was known for its realistic approach to the tactical shooter genre and the gameplay, but it struggled to actually keep up with the trends that were evolving in the FPS genre. So, as I mentioned before, the Delta Force Black Hawk Down was actually well received for its portrayal of the modern military operations. On the converse, the Battlefield franchise, they're massive. They were considered a rival to Call of Duty, especially when we mention Battlefield 3 and 4. Those are widely regarded as the high points of the series. Some people disagree and say Hardline... I'm joking. No one ever says Hardline was the best. Battlefield 1, though, some people say they really loved. Some people really liked Battlefield 5. I was definitely on the Battlefield 3-4 train. I loved Battlefield 4 especially. The sniping in that was my main standpoint, and I'll throw up some stats here to show you kind of where my allegiances lie in terms of sniping in that game. It actually still remains one of the most popular FPS franchises. However, in recent years, since Battlefield 1, the player count's probably been dropping. The main gameplay differences between these two, though, is Delta Force goes for realism and tactics. So it really emphasizes the realism and focus on spec ops. So like the special operations, smaller maps, stealth, teamwork, strategic planning. The Delta Force that we've just played, while we haven't played the campaign, the multiplayer aspects were more akin to Battlefield, where it's a rush style type game, and if you were copying it from Battlefield, it would be rush and you advance to capture flags, points, and then move further on throughout the map. The graphics in Delta Force generally were known for more simple graphics, but later series started to maintain a focus on tactical depth over graphics. So while they're still okay, they just weren't the main focus. The other thing that Delta Force had was single player and co-op. So there was single player co-op with narrative driven, as well as some cooperative multiplayer modes. Now, I actually remember when Battlefield had this, and it was like one of the coolest things when you could do like these style missions, where I specifically remember one where you fly a helicopter into a valley, and I think you've got to either defend something or destroy something. I can't remember, it was so long ago, but it was so cool. But the Battlefield series, it's, like I mentioned before, large-scale battles, 64 players, different types of infantry, vehicles, aircraft. The maps are massive. There's usually, same kind of thing as we've just seen with Delta Force. Objectives, team coordination, that kind of stuff. Battlefield has a pretty clear standout for the destruction of the environment, and they ramped it up in Battlefield 4 with the destruction of the tower. I think you're in Shanghai or somewhere. I know you're in an Asian country, and you could shoot out the pillars of the building and the whole building would come down. Like, when I saw that in the beta, like, when was this? 2013 or 14 or something? It was mind-blowing. It was crazy. They brought it in for, I think Bad Company 2 was the first one that they had the Frostbite engine. Someone will have to correct me on that if I'm wrong. But you could destroy buildings in that, and it was so cool being able to drive a tank through a building and literally it would just collapse. And then, something that now Battlefield has very much shifted focus to, the multiplayer. The single player campaigns are at the stage. They've done a Black Ops 4, I believe it was. They've gotten rid of the campaign in 2042, and now you've got its multiplayer. And even then, they couldn't get that right with this release. They typically have your most loved Conquest and Rush. They mix up the modes with different hardcore versus normal. Higher ticket rates, stuff like that. So basically, in conclusion, Delta Force is more of a tactical, realistic, but smaller scale operations. So it's generally going to be more for your people who prefer this strategy-focused first-person shooter. At least I would assume that's what the campaign is going to be a bit more focused on. Whereas the Battlefields, they focus on that large scale. And what I'm really hoping for, and I said this in the last video, I'm really hoping for Delta Force to come out and it smash it out of the park, and then DICE will have to go to EA and basically tell them, look, we've had a good run, but we need the reins back now. Give us back control of creating the Battlefield games. Stop rushing us, stop trying to market it to your investors, and let us create a game where, when they actually create games, have the freedom of creativity. We get games like Battlefield 3, Battlefield 4, Battlefield No, I'm sorry. I actually didn't mind Hardline. I'll be honest with you. The sniping in that was quite funny. It was more like more arcadey, but yeah, I just thought I'd touch on this and see where this takes us. Hopefully we get this Delta Force coming out. The alpha is over right now. we're going to see more of it in Stream Next Fest. I believe it kicks off on October 11th. No, October 14th, and that is Pacific time. So 10 a.m. Pacific time, October 14th, Steam Next Fest. We get to see that more gameplay, I believe. And then it is confirmed at the end of the year, the early access will be available for Delta Force. So yeah, stay tuned. Hopefully we get some more news coming out of that. I'll be covering a bit more of this as we move along. But yeah, if you like this video, like, comment, subscribe. Love to have a conversation with you in the chat about it. And yeah, but once again, this is Mesmer, and thanks for watching. Bye.
We are attacking Bravo 2.